This is 11th literature. We just took a quiz on vocabulary. We're starting Frankenstein today. It's page 9. I hesitate reading this. I may not read all of it, but I just think it's interesting that this is written. Doesn't say it was, but it was written by Mary Shelley's husband. Mary Shelley wrote the book, but he wrote this preface. So let me start. The event on which this fiction was founded has been supposed by Dr. Darwin and some of the physiological writers of Germany as not of impossible occurrence. I shall not be supposed as according the remotest degree of serious faith to such an imagination. Yet in assuming it as the basis of a work of fancy, I have not considered myself as merely weaving a series of supernatural terrors. The event on which the interest of the story depends is exempt from the disadvantages of a mere tale of specters and enchantment. It was recommended by the novelty of the situations which it develops, and, however impossible as the physical fact, affords a point of view to the imagination for the delineating of human passions more comprehensive and commanding than any which the ordinary relations of existing events can yield. Well, you can tell she didn't write that because I think she's easier to read than him. But it basically said, though the events in the story are absurd, they allow us to examine human emotions, all right? All right, so I have thus endeavored to preserve the truth of the elementary principle of human nature, while I have not scrupled to innovate upon their combinations. The Iliad, the tragic poetry of Greece, Shakespeare in The Tempest, The Midsummer Night's Dream, and most especially Milton in Paradise Lost, conform to this rule. And the most humble novelist who seeks to confer or receive amusement from his labors may without presumption apply to prose fiction a license, or rather a rule, from the adoption of which so many exquisite combinations of human feeling have resulted in their highest specimens of poetry. So again, he's sort of saying the story may be ridiculous, the events, but the human emotions are real. The circumstances in which my story, it says my story, but it's really Percy writing this, right? The wife wrote the book. He's writing it as if she were writing it. I don't know how they know this, but they do. The circumstance in which my story rests was suggested in casual conversation. It was commended partly as a source of amusement and partly as an expedient for exercising any untried resource of mine. Other motives were mingled with these as the work proceeded. I am by no means indifferent to the manner in which whatever moral tendencies exist in the sentiments or characters it contains shall affect the reader. Yet my chief concern in this respect has been limited to the avoiding the enervating effects of the novels of the present day and to the exhibition of their amiableness of domestic affection and the excellence of universal virtue. The opinions which naturally spring from the character and situation of the hero are by no means to be conceived as existing always in my own conviction, nor is any inference justly to be drawn from the following pages as prejudicing any philosophical doctrine of whatever kind. So I'm going to finish it. It is the subject also of additional interest to the author that this story was begun in the majestic region where the scene is principally laid, and in the society which cannot cease to be regretted. I passed the summer of 1816. That's a date you need to remember. We're on page 10. You don't have all that? Where are you?
I'm just like at the beginning.
Can I see? All right, the author's introduction. Author's introduction. Frankenstein. Okay. Oh, what is interesting? So let's look at the letters. We'll start with the letters. You know how the story was told, right? I mean, you know what started the story? They're at a chalet in Switzerland, which is where most of the story takes place, in Switzerland. And they have a writing contest. They're going to write a ghost story. And so she and the doctor, there were 4 people there, Byron, Shelley, the doctor, and Mary Shelley. Byron and Shelley, the 2 romantic poets, they didn't produce anything. But the doctor produced what was the first vampire story, and she produced what we know is Frankenstein. All right, so this is a epistolary novel, which means, you remember what that means? They're basically, the whole story is told in letters. Would you start for us?
The story's told in what?
Letters. And everything that we read here is something that's written in a letter and sent to somebody. That's an epistolary novel. Okay. And Sarah started.
Do you want me to start with
Letter 1, yeah.
So you will rejoice?
What's that?
Is that it? You will rejoice?
Yes.
Okay.
No, but notice to whom it's written. Start there.
Okay, to Mrs. Saville?
Right. That's the writer of this letter's sister. And notice the place and the date. Read that.
St. Petersburg, December 11th, 17.
Yeah, I don't know why they would not put, in the 19th century, when they would put a date, they would leave off the year. But know that it's winter. It's St. Petersburg. You know where St. Petersburg is?
Russia?
Yes. It's in the Baltic Sea area, the very northern part of Russia. Okay, this is a letter. You may begin.
Okay. You will rejoice to hear that no disaster has accompanied the commencement of an enterprise which you have regarded with such evil forebodings. I arrived here yesterday, and my first task is to assure my dear sister of my welfare, and increasing confidence in the success of my undertaking. I am already far north of London, and as I walk in the streets of Petersburg, I feel a cold northern breeze play upon my cheeks, which braces my nerves and fills me with delight. Do you understand this feeling? This breeze, which has traveled from the regions towards which I am advancing, gives me a foretaste of those icy climes. Inspirited by this wind of promise, my daydreams become more fervent and vivid. I have tried in vain to be persuaded that the pole is the seat of frost and desolation. It ever presents itself to my imagination as the region of beauty and delight. There, Margaret, the sun is forever visible, its broad disk just skirting the horizon, and diffusing a perpetual splendor. Therefore, with your leave, my sister, I will put some trust in preceding navigators. There, snow and frost are banished. In sailing over a calm sea, we may wafted to a land surpassing in wonders and in beauty. Every region hitherto discovered on the habitable globe. Its productions and features may be without example, and as the phenomenon, I think, of the heavenly bodies undoubtedly are in those undiscovered solitudes. What may not be expected in a country of eternal light? Okay, he's talking about the North Pole. I don't know what the question. Who is Robert Walton? Who is he writing to? Where is he writing from? So, who is he? You know where he is and who he's writing to. Who is he? Mrs. Saville's brother.
Right. He's also an explorer. He's on an expedition to explore the North Pole. That's his goal, is to go to the North Pole. He said some interesting things about the North Pole. He thinks at the North Pole there's going to be no snow or ice. He does say that it's perpetually daytime. Have you ever been into Canada, any place like that? I think if you go to Alaska, particularly during winter, it's light all the time. The sun never goes below the horizon. It actually circles. Instead of going up this way, it goes this way. It's like always light. Because you know how the earth is tilted how is the Earth tilted in winter in the northern hemisphere? Like the Earth is naturally tilted, right? And so as it revolves around the sun, what happens in winter? We're furthest away from the sun, right? And so I think the idea there is that even though in winter the sun, it's like dark for much of the time and then light for much of the time anyway.
Where's he writing from?
He's writing from St. Petersburg, Russia, which is at the Baltic Sea, which is very close to the Arctic Circle.
So, haven't we answered number 3? Those, like, what does he hope to discover? Is it that he hopes to discover that there's no snow, or that there is snow?
Well, he hopes to discover the North Pole. He doesn't think at this point, it hasn't been discovered yet. No one's been there. They know it's there, but no one's been there yet. You can keep, yeah.
I may there discover the wondrous power which attracts the needle, and may regulate 1,000 celestial observations that require only this voyage to render their seeming eccentricities consistent forever. I shall satiate my ardent curiosity with the sight of a part of the world never before visited, and may tread a land never before imprinted by the foot of man. These are my enticements, and they are sufficient to conquer all fear of danger or death, and to induce me to commence these laborious voyage with the joy a child feels when he embarks in a little boat, with his holiday mates, on an expedition of discovery of his native river. But supposing all these conjectures to be false, you cannot contest the inestimable benefit which I shall confer on all mankind the last generation, by discovering a passage near the pole to those countries, to reach what at present so many months are requisite, or by ascertaining the secret of the magnet, which, if at all possible, can only be effected by an undertaking such as mine.
All right, look at the question again. We won't be able to do much more. But, all right, what are his plans to discover? What does he hope to discover? There are 3 things. He wants to discover North Pole, but he thinks that he'll also discover the power, the magnetic power of the North Pole. He thinks that's going to lead to great human discoveries if they can sort of unlock the power of the magnetic pole. He's also going to see things, like in the sky, that you can't see anywhere else, because of the location. And then he's also just being somewhere where no human being has ever stepped before. And there's a 4th thing. He says he's going to discover a way to get to the Pacific Ocean. Do you know how they got to the Pacific Ocean? If you were in Europe and you wanted to go to Hawaii, how did you get there? How would you get there? Yes, you would. But what's the course you would take?
Wouldn't they go around Africa?
You have to, you could go that way or you could go around South America. Just think how long it takes to go all the way down to the tip of South America and then up. So there was this thing called the Northwest Passage. And they believed that you could go through the Arctic Ocean to get to the Pacific Ocean. So instead of going south to the tip of South America, they would go north, go through the Arctic Ocean and get into the Pacific Ocean. That would take much less time. So you have a test on Friday. And so tomorrow, if you have any questions, but we're going to go back to the book, and we're going to read as much as possible to get you started. And as soon as Friday comes, you will be able to read on your own. We won't do it on the... What?
Is the test on what we just read?
The test is on the Romantic literature. We will have a test on this probably before the quarter is over. We'll have to see. Yeah, you may go ahead. Looks like people are already leaving.
Thank you, Mr. Powell.
Yes, we'll see ya.